Folks, the Patriots of X746 are on a mission to educate you and all the citizens around you about your gun rights here in Arkansas. The idea of constitutional carry, permitless carry. You don't need a permission slip or a permit from the government to carry a weapon open or concealed in the state of Arkansas. There is much consensus on that, but there's also much confusion being pushed out by the propagandists in government, and that is exactly what this is. This is government propaganda. And it's probably we're probably going through this because of a revenue stream or a fear of revenue stream being cut off. You can go to Facebook.com and search for Patriots of Act 746. Listen to the rest of this segment, by the way. You're going to want to hear it. Welcome to the program from the Patriots. We've got Mr. Jim Ennis back on the program. Hey, Jim, how are you doing, sir?
Good morning, Paul. How are you this morning?
I'm doing fantastic. Now, I want to get your take on a meeting that happened between the Arkansas State Police, the head of the police there, Bill Bryant, the attorney for the Arkansas State Police, and legislators a couple of weeks ago. Now, were you at that meeting, or have you just seen the video that is thankfully archived on the Arkansas House of Representatives website?
I was not present at the meeting, but I have watched that video several times.
Yeah, it's pretty frustrating, isn't it? I mean, let's just get a general take, and then I want to play some of the audio from it.
Well, I mean, yes, it was frustrating, and it was obviously frustrating for a lot of the legislators that were there. John Payton, Marcus Richmond, there were several there that were frustrated with Colonel Bryant and the General Counsel. They repeatedly asked for the state police to provide the statute in which somebody could still be arrested for carrying concealed without a permit. And repeatedly, the Colonel Bryant and the General Counsel both could not give that statute. It was just a lot of just a lot of side talk and everything, and could not come up with that statute. Because it doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist, and they're leaving us and the citizens no choice but to speculate on why they will not state the obvious. And as law enforcement officers, and when it comes to criminal code, it's got to be clear. And they're saying because it's not clear, it means that that constitutional carry is not a thing. Let me cue this up. Let's go. This is Richard Womack. This is kind of toward the end of the question. Here's State Representative Richard Womack talking to the Arkansas State Police attorney at the Arkansas Legislative Council a couple of weeks ago. Watch this.
Okay.
To be demonstration of unlawful intent. Senator Ballinger was correct.
And I want to just stop you because, we're kind of going back over the same ground here, and that was not my intent. I think the answer was no. Like, you don't have clear language there, which, going back to where Representative Ballinger went, when it comes to a criminal charge, you have to have that. So if you don't have that, and I'm assuming you don't, right? Like you've had three opportunities now to state this is the language that's as plain as day that makes this illegal. And I'm not trying to be ugly. I'm really looking for a yes or no answer because you stated your opinion and how you interpret it, and of course everybody in this room can have the same thing. So I'm just going to move to my follow-up, really, Colonel Bryant, because I don't think you're going to give us the answer that we all know, is you don't have that language. Colonel Bryant, why do you refuse to acknowledge the fact that you don't have that language in code anywhere?
Again, I believe it's the interpretation that I depend on our lawyers at the state police of that statute. And we've hashed it over, but I think it's the totality of the circumstances.
You're depending on the lawyers. No, it's your opinion, and the lawyers are
okay.
Are justifying your opinion.
It just amazes me that that's good enough for you to not have law that you're asking your officers to enforce against the people of the state of Arkansas. That really blows my mind.
Representative Womack, we don't want your mind blown, but we would like to represent Senator Stubblefield at this point.
Wait, let's stop. We'll get to Stubblefield here in a minute. That is incredible to me. And by the way, the chair of that committee from the Senate side is Democrat Keith Ingram, and he was playing defense for the state police the entire time. But so Jim Ennis, let me get you to respond to that.
Well, number one, it's not the it's not the position of the state police to interpret law to begin with. They have to go by what is presented to them by the legislature. And the statute clearly states that unless a person has unlawful intent, the mere possession of a firearm is not a crime. And that's even been decided upon. Everybody's been in the government has been crying for the last 6 years, saying that we need precedent. We need a court case. Well, we have a court case. Mm-hmm. As of October 17th, 2018, Taft v. Arkansas, we have a case where the Arkansas State Court of Appeals said that it is not that merely possessing a weapon is not a crime in the state of Arkansas.
And you know, I wasn't at the whole meeting, but I didn't hear anybody reference the Attorney General opinion in response to the late Senator Collins' question. You know, what's the penalty for carrying a weapon concealed without a permit? I mean, at the very beginning of her opinion, she admits that there is no such. You know, and exactly. So I would have loved for somebody to have been like, so you disagree with the Attorney General? And this idea of like, well, this is what my lawyer's friend, this is what the lawyers tell me. No, you have your opinion. You're the boss. You have the agenda, and the lawyers come around as essentially a spokesperson and try to do their, you know, they do their mental gymnastics to try to represent your point of view. That's what a lawyer does. And you know, honestly, I mean, she just is, you know, is kind of talking around the obvious, which we have constitutional carry in Arkansas, and the Arkansas State Police don't want to admit it in a public setting. So, Jim, Ennis, why don't you think they want to admit it in a public setting?
Well, it's money, and the General Counsel, Mary Claire McLaren, stated, and people can go to the Patriots of Act 746 YouTube channel, and there's a video there, Arkansas State Police protecting revenue, and Mary McLaren is saying that if it would be possible to carry a handgun without a concealed carry permit, what is the purpose of having the concealed carry statute? And then she goes on to say that the Arkansas State Police relies on that $2.9 million a year that they receive from the renewal and issuance of new concealed carry permits in the state of Arkansas. So it comes down to following the money every single time.
Yeah, that's frustrating to me for her to say, well, what's the point of the concealed carry statute? Well, the concealed carry statute was passed during the 90s, and Act 746 was passed in 2013. So sometimes you pass new laws, and then they make the old ones kind of obsolete. That's not a new concept.
Apparently, at Arkansas State Police, it is. They hold strongly on that statute that was passed in 1995, establishing the concealed carry permit and the $100 fee that goes along with it. And you know, we passed a law this year reducing the fees by half because, you know, it made it easier for people that do want to have a carry permit. It made it easier for them to obtain one financially. And then what does the state police do is they pad the fees with another $25 state background check fee, and virtually knocks out the reduction of the fee. So you're only saving like maybe $10.
That's very frustrating.
On what would have been, you know, a fairly decent reduction in the fees.
We're talking with Jim Ennis from the Patriots VEC 746. Jim, I have heard indirectly that state troopers admit privately that they are instructed essentially that Arkansas is a constitutional carry state when it comes to daily enforcement. In terms of they're not going to arrest somebody for carrying a weapon concealed without a permit, or, you know, this idea of open carry. Like they know what the law is because they don't want to tie up the system with all of these arrests and charges that would never be brought because the cases would be thrown out because prosecutors know what the law is. We've seen this time and time again. Somebody gets arrested by some police officer somewhere that doesn't really know what the changes are yet, and we've seen this time and time again. So, first of all, have you heard that as well, that state troopers, when it comes to daily enforcement, they've been instructed to enforce the law, but the heads just won't admit what the law is publicly?
Right. Yes, I have heard that, and we've discussed that on the POA page, on several occasions. And the reason why, again, goes back to the fact that there is no statute that they could write. I mean, they've got to write a ticket or they've got to arrest somebody on a given statute, and there's no statute there for them to make the arrest. So if they were to arrest somebody under carrying a concealed weapon or a weapon of any kind without a permit, that's false arrest.
Yeah. Yeah, and
so they understand that that's opening them up to a liability, and false arrest charges and all, and court cases and all this other stuff. They don't want that to go that way.
Yeah, they are open for civil litigation if they were to do what some of these local governments have done that have now corrected their policies. I do have somebody on Facebook, Roger, saying that he's been told by the Arkansas State Police that they will arrest you for concealed carry without a permit. So maybe there is some, there may be some ambiguity there.
And again, it may come down to the particular jurisdiction, where Roger may be.
Right.
You go over into eastern Arkansas. There's towns and communities over there that are very anti-Second Amendment, and they will go out of their way to arrest people.
We're talking with Jim Ennis from the Patriots of Act 746. Jim, I really appreciate you coming on. I want to go back to this video. I want to keep you on. I want to go back to this video. Mm-hmm. This is Senator Bob Ballinger. I want you to listen to his line of questioning to the Arkansas State Police a couple of weeks ago, because he did a good job of bringing them out and exposing them for just not wanting to admit what the law says. And again, this is our law enforcement agency, our chief premier law enforcement agency. Go ahead, Joe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, I didn't necessarily, and I totally get where you all are coming from. And frankly, the code section is written too broad. That's really what the problem is. You guys are dealing with the code section that's written too broad. I would say that, my encouragement would be to recognize that it's written too broad to the point where it's probably unconstitutional to gather that much information. And so as an agency, you should deal with it. My question really is, going back to the first question that Representative Payton asked you, and you said the code section says that you can't carry concealed without a permit. So what code section? And this is not, honestly, I don't want to put the state police in a bad spot, except for the fact that you said that. And so now I get asked all the time, right? That people reach out to me all the time to tell me whether you can carry concealed or not concealed without a permit. It's a regular occurrence on social media. I get asked probably at least once a week about it. And so, the rule of strict construction would say if you're going to enforce a criminal penalty, which the carrying a firearm without the carrying of a firearm that used to be a crime that's criminal penalty. If you're going to enforce it, it's got to be under the rule of strict construction. You got to be real clear. So what code section prohibits a person from carrying concealed without a permit?
If I may, we are speaking in hypotheticals. And
no, we're not. No, I'm talking about the law. Right.
No,
so under the law, what code section says you can't carry a gun without a permit?
I'm only saying that we're speaking in hypotheticals because there's not an instance that I believe anyone has brought to our attention of state police enforcing a code section in a manner other than you suggest might be, or that Representative Payton suggested might be.
No one knows what that means, lady. Law. No one knows.
So if
that doesn't make any sense.
We were to look at 573-120, where it says that the possession carrying a weapon unless with unlawful intent to employ it as a weapon against a person. The subsections of that provision, it's, as you know, as an attorney, we have to read it as a whole, taking each word as intended by the legislature. So you have several subsections that are exceptions. One of those exceptions is if you are carrying a weapon concealed and you are a concealed license holder. So the alternative would be, if it's an exception to that, to be a licensed concealed carry holder and you're carrying concealed. Alternatively, it may be determined by an officer on the scene that because you're carrying concealed and you're not a concealed carry license holder, that you have unlawful intent to employ. That may be a determination that is made based on a totality of the circumstances.
That's not how the law works.
On the scene.
That's not how criminal
Yes,
law
but
works.
never consistent under the law, because if this was a civil judgment, I understand, right? Because now it's ambiguous. We've got to try to interpret it. You're going to take those code sections. You're going to say, okay, if we're going to give this meaning in the exception, but that's not what we're dealing with. We're dealing with criminal, and they're criminal. It's strict construction. And the only reason why an officer on the scene may come up with that interpretation is because of the confusion that comes from the state, and probably the primary the individual entity most guilty is us, and frankly you as the state police. The last person who asked me about this said, I asked the state police, and the state police said, that they feel like you can carry, I think it was open, without a permit, but you need to go ask your local law enforcement. That's not the way law works. The law is either it's legal or it's illegal. If it's ambiguous of whether it's legal to carry without a permit, they're the defendant. It's criminal law. The answer is it is legal to carry without a permit.
Stop.
And I'm
Jim,
totally open. If someone can point to
Senator Ballinger, I mean, he really exposed them for basically promoting confusion.
Exactly. Yes. Senator Ballinger did a great job on exposing them for not being able to provide the statute. And again, you cannot arrest somebody if on something that there is no statute saying you can't do that. What penalty is there for carrying without a permit? There's no penalty because it's not there. There's absolutely no statute in the state of Arkansas saying that you are guilty of carrying a weapon without a permit.
Let me ask you one last question, Jim. And this is a bombshell question, but again, the Arkansas State Police leaves a reporter like me no choice but to speculate as to why they won't admit publicly what the law says. The first reason is because of money. But the second reason is because of something I heard a while back, and this was when 746 first was realized from being what it was. And it had to do with people in different or lower socioeconomic neighborhoods, and maybe a desire to not allow them to know what the law is because they don't want people in poorer neighborhoods to know they have the right to carry. So my question would be, is it possible there's also a racial motive for not wanting to admit what the law says?
And Paul, I would say yes, you are correct. And if you look at the vast majority of the gun laws, not only in the state of Arkansas, but in the United States, most Second Amendment laws or laws going against the Second Amendment were written in order to prevent minorities from obtaining firearms and to carry firearms. It goes back to post-Civil War times.
Yeah.
They did not want minorities armed because they wanted them, if you will, left in their place.
Well, I mean, I think it's certainly a possibility.
And it continues today.
Yeah, and that's why I asked the question.
Today.
That's why I asked the question.
I mean, why else would we have a $150 carry permit in the state of Arkansas when a lot of people in the lower income brackets cannot afford a $150 permit to carry?
That's exactly right. And you know, they can put and I know how government officials are now. I mean, you start suggesting that maybe they have a racial animus, and that's kind of a knee jerk. So, I mean, maybe they just need to acknowledge what the law says and eliminate all this speculation, because they leave somebody who cares about liberty and freedom and wanting their government to be a good government that lets the people know, what is permissible and what isn't. I mean, this isn't the Wild West where we go from jurisdiction to jurisdiction within our sovereign state. We're one sovereign state, and we got to have uniformity of code and law. Jim?
Exactly.
Ennis with the Patriots VAC 746. Thank you, sir, for coming on. Love to do it again soon.
You bet. Looking forward to it, Paul.
All right.
You have a great day.
You too. Have a happy Independence Day, folks. It's Patriots VAC 746. Search for them on Facebook and ask to become a member of the group today.